SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SeizeYourBusiness.com, making you money. Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, Twitter, our blogs, YouTube, video, listen to our podcast. It's so hot that it's burning up the stereo.
Welcome to the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast, coming to you from our speakeasy in lovely downtown Downers Grove, Illinois. Our guest today is Keith Hoffman from First Advantage Mortgage. Our hosts are Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law and myself, Tony Rourke from ADR Business Resource Group. If you find the podcast helpful, or if you want to help us, we would appreciate it if you would review us on iTunes or even share our podcast on social media. So without further ado, I'll hand this off to Kevin.
So Keith, thanks for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk to you a little bit about your business and what advice generally you have for business owners. And then we're going to talk a little bit about building power partner relationships and your experience in that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Well, I'm a long-time mortgage professional. I started in the business about 23 years ago. Worked for a company that was a mortgage banker for let's say 6 years or so, went to a small brokerage company, and then actually bought into First Advantage Mortgage. We grew the business tenfold and decided to sell it. We merged our company with Draper and Kramer, which is a very, very large company out of Chicago, and bought our assets. And since then, my partner has continued to be president and grow our business.
Okay. And now you're kind of working as a business development guy in that business, right?
Well, I originate loans. I've always liked to do that, and that's really been the best part about what I like in the business. I talk to a lot of people. I help a lot of people, first-time buyers, somebody who might have been in a house that either they need to sell and go on to the next one. But that's the part of the business I really like. I can take the rest and probably get rid of it.
And you've written a couple books too, right?
I have. As you know, my passion is horse racing. So I have written 2 books. One is Smarter Bets the Exacta Way, and the other is Inside the Sport of Kings. Both of them are sold on Amazon, and it's my passion, and I really enjoy sharing that with the readers.
I hear you've been to the Kentucky Derby once or twice?
Yes, every year since 1974. I was a senior in high school, and that was a real interesting first time. And I've been going every year since, with the exception of 1981, when my son PJ was born. His real name is Philip, and if you go back into finding out what the name Philip is, it's actually lover of horses. So I didn't name him just for the horses. My grandfather was a big influence, and his name was Philip, so that's why.
So tell me a little bit about what it took to get your business from the point where you're, starting it on the ground level to the point where it's something that people actually want to buy.
It's funny. When I first started in the business, I went to work for a company that's now out of business, but they gave me an opportunity to learn the business, and that's really what I wanted to do. I learned the business from the inside out. I actually trained for 6 months. I underwrote loans. I processed loans. I went out with appraisers, went to credit companies, went to title companies. So I really learned all of the business as I was going through it. They threw me to the wolves after that. Basically, I had to go and call on offices. So I came up with this game plan as to which offices I really want to go to. We had captured accounts. So if this account, real estate office, for instance, was taken, I couldn't go there. Well, when you have top producers in a company, it is difficult sometimes to find. But I worked a lot. I went out and got a number of offices. I would get a couple of loans out of each office, met accountants, insurance people, and try to create a very, very good network to be able to get some additional business. I worked there for a while. After a while, I saw the writing on the wall. I just didn't feel comfortable with what was going on. So I left there and opened a small branch for another company, which is actually a mortgage broker. Worked for them for about a year and had the opportunity then to buy into First Advantage Mortgage.
Okay. And if you could go back and, tell your younger self, the guy that was going through all that stuff, a couple words of advice about, things that if you were going back in time in a time machine and had to go through all that over again, are there a couple things that you do differently?
Probably. I would probably work harder.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like you worked pretty hard, though.
I was working very hard. I'd spent a lot of time doing it. But, when it comes around to 3 o'clock and some of the loan officers would say, hey, let's go for a drink, you have to work hard. So you can't go for a drink with them. So that's really, I think I would spend some more time developing additional business.
And how have you learned over the years to kind of keep yourself focused on that hard work principle and keep yourself on track when 3 o'clock rolls around to not go for that drink?
Well, I've learned that you work hard and you play hard. There's times for each. There's no doubt that I spend time doing the things I like to do, but I always believe that work comes first. So I'm going to make sure that nothing gets in the front of that when I'm going to be planning my days and doing my things.
When you say work hard and play hard, do you segment, set rules for yourself? Like at this period of the day, this is my work period. And then when I turn off, or are you always on?
No. Well, I'm always on, but I am not one of those planners that say, okay, I'm going to do this time. I'm going to do this time. When it comes to guidelines or structure, I am not a real big structure guy. I really like to be able to freewheel and do things, but I do adhere to those rules and regulations and time frames. I really seldom get up in the morning and say, what am I going to do today? I usually have a plan.
No, that's very important in any business you're in. Is having a to-do list for the day, a plan, and
right.
Both strategically and tactically. Overarching where your business is, where you want it to go,
right,
and what you want to get done to get it there that day. So,
sure.
So let's talk a little bit about building power partner relationships, which is something that you're really good at. Tell me about the way you've built your network, because you've got a pretty impressive network in Downers Grove. You were Citizen of the Year a couple years ago. How did you go about getting that started and getting it rolling?
Well, the one thing I learned many, many, many moons ago was that you really have to be able to give and take. So many things that I did got me to network, but it didn't necessarily make it so that I'm trying to get business. I joined the Kiwanis Club. Kiwanis was a not-for-profit organization that gave back to the community. So I figured if I can join that, I will be able to meet people. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. To me, that was the number one thing that has gotten me business. I get a lot of referrals from that. You meet people that you can trust. You get to know the good businesses, the mediocre and the bad businesses. But the practices that the Chamber of Commerce really adhere to is something that is dear to my heart. And I think that that's really something that's helped me get my business. There's been the Rotary Club. Obviously, when I left Kiwanis, I felt I needed even more. So I went to the Rotary Club of Downers Grove. It's been very, very good to me. I love participating and giving back to the community that way, as well as internationally. As you know, I did two trips to China.
Yeah, with Alliance for Smiles, right?
Yes. Yes.
What did you take anything away that changed you as a person from those trips?
I'll tell you, that was an eye-opening trip, but both of them. I did two different things there. The first one, I was a record keeper. Again, I sat down at a computer, but they also knew my talents in writing and photography. So I started writing for the International Alliance for Smiles on that trip, as well as taking pictures. I learned a lot because those kids that have gone through that, their whole world has changed. And there's nothing that could have been done before that other than the cleft lip and palate reconstruction. Mm-hmm. They're very fortunate to be able to do that. And many, many, many people in China are not able to go through that. So that has really been a special thing for me. The second time I was I was a sterilizer. Now, I'm not a medical person, but I learned how to use the sterilization machine and did that. And to see what these doctors do, it's just amazing. I mean, your dad is.
Yeah, you went with my dad on a couple.
I went with your dad. He's a great dentist, and actually was in a couple of surgeries with him. And the one thing that I really absolutely loved was the fact that one of the head doctor had asked me to assist in one of the procedures.
That must have been a trip.
It was very interesting, very nervous, but I felt like I was really doing something special, especially since I'm not a medical person.
One of the things we've talked about at the Rotary Club, because that's one of the ways we know each other. We talk about not using the Rotary Club as a way to bring in business or expecting to get business from it, just kind of giving first, and then the business comes. But you've probably gotten a lot of business from your time in the Rotary Club, right?
Oh yeah, and what happens is you get to know people. You spend your time doing things for the community. You're getting involved, and you're getting to meet people and get to know them. Obviously, their trust in you after they get to know you is going to really help in your business. So I have never really gone into the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club or the club that I was in Texas asking for business. It just sort of comes. So once they get to know you and know what you do, and you do it well, then it's a secondary thing. It just comes.
I've contrasted things like the Rotary Club with leads groups, where if you go to a leads group, you're going to get a short-term influx of business. But at a Rotary Club, if you stick with it, you'll meet so many people in town, lay your roots deep, and it's a much bigger long-term payoff. But you can't expect to just get the same type of business that you would get from a leads group.
Well, no, you can't. Now, I belong to a leads group through the Chamber of Commerce, through Chamber 630, and it's called Lodge, and it is the longest standing networking group in DuPage County.
I didn't know that.
Yes. It's a great organization, and I call it an organization because everybody really does give each other good leads. The business that I've done, the other day I was in there and I looked around and I said, okay, how many people in this room did I actually do a mortgage for? And there were 19 people in the room that I did mortgages for. And that doesn't include who they referred out. So I'm going to say that is the number one way to get business, is to join a networking group, but you join for that specific reason. Mm-hmm. So I've been a member for a long time. I couldn't believe I got in because there's only one person in every category. Well, when I wanted to join, I said, well, who's the mortgage guy? And they told me, and I go, this guy's going to have to die before I get in. And so luckily it was really, it was maybe 6-7 months before he decided that he wanted to get out. And I think he wore everybody a little thin, didn't actually do the things that he says he could do. And it opened up and I jumped in, and I've been in ever since.
How many years have you been in Lodge?
Wow, that's a good question. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, it's been a long time. I joined Lodge 10, 15, maybe 15 years, maybe.
Okay. In my experience with leads groups, it takes about at least 6 months to a year before you even get a little bit of business out of it, because it's all about building the relationships with the people in the group. It's not about, trading referrals so much.
And you're right, because, you really have to get to know. It's funny. The other day I was there and there was a new person, and somebody said, hey, who's the chiropractor? And it's like, well, they're sitting right next to you, you don't even know this, but you have to get knowing the people and what they do, and then understand, maybe refer to them, go out to lunch, talk to them, see what they do, how they do their business. And I think after a while, once you talk to somebody, you'll understand whether they really know their business, do they run it well, or are they just there to, try to get business.
Sure. So what are your strategies for turning someone from a professional acquaintance into a power partner?
Well, I think, a lot of people always say, ask questions. Don't talk about yourself. I always try to learn about the other person. And how am I going to relate to them and let them know about my business? Obviously, there's a million people that do mortgages. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows a mortgage banker, broker, whatever. But the fact is that you really have to be able to let them understand you know what you're talking about. So you might just bring up a conversation about one particular thing and talk to them about it, and or ask them a question. The best way, as you know, to get somebody to talk is to ask them a question.
Mm-hmm.
And ask an open-ended question, not a closed-end question. So they can't answer yes or no. So if I'm going to ask you a question, I'm not going to say, what do you do for your living? I'm an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you, so tell me about your business. What line of business are you in? And then you're going to tell me, and then we can start talking. So it's a give and take thing, but I always ask questions. I was in the apparel business for a long time. I was a rep, and I called on major department stores. And the one thing I learned is go in and ask the questions and then come up with a solution. Because if you think you're going to give them a solution to something that you don't even know what they need, you're going to lose.
Sure, and you haven't built that rapport with them if you just come in with your cookie cutter solution.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you've gotten your first referral from somebody, or maybe your first 5 referrals, how do you keep the referral pipeline open with that person? How do you keep the relationship strong and healthy?
Well, one of the things that I do is I have a blog that I do. I always try to promote your business. So, for instance, if I decide that I'm going to, after I meet you and I'm talking to you, I might say, hey, I've got a great opportunity for you to meet Kevin O'Flaherty. He's a fantastic attorney, and here's what he specializes in. If you're interested in talking to him, this would be a great opportunity for you to do that. And I think that way it's easy for you to get to know people and refer people. You always hear about somebody says, hey, I got a guy. Well, I know a lot of people, and I've experienced good people and bad people. And so it's easy for me when you ask me, hey, do you know somebody who's a good plumber? I can say, sure, I do. Mm-hmm. Or no, I really don't, but let me suggest that you call the Chamber of Commerce. They probably have a good list for you. So those are the kind of things that I like to look at. When you're looking at let's say networking, there's a number of things that I like to do, and I like to involve people together. So I'll go and either have a lunch, or we have our luncheons the other day, where you have a couple of people and you introduce them to each other. So it's easy for you to get to know people when you know people.
And I found that when I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody, I have real trouble sustaining that relationship unless I can get them plugged into my universe in a group that I'm in. So, I always invite them to Rotary Club or a lunch group that I'm in, or a leads group, because once they get plugged into a group that I'm in, we have to see each other every month. And
right.
And we automatically build that relationship, as opposed to some people use the strategy of, follow up every 6 weeks and grab lunch every 6 weeks. Well, that can be pretty time consuming, and that's people can fall off your radar pretty easily. But if you can get them involved in the stuff you're involved in, the friendship will come, as long as you're both good people, I found.
Yeah, I get a lot of referrals, but I also talk to people. I might pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, Kevin, how things going? Mm-hmm. Not, hey, do you have any business for me? Just right. How are things going? Is there anything I can do to help you out? Things like that.
Now, I know a lot of your business comes from real estate agents, and you probably have, multiple real estate agents that you work with and that send you business. How do you take care of all of them, keep adding value back to them without the necessarily ability to match them referral for referral?
That's probably the toughest thing. I had an agent the other day. We had a discussion, and she said, hey, am I going to list your house when you're ready to sell it? And I said, well, I pretty much decided that I'm going to take 3 of my top agents, and I'm going to have them come in and do a CMA and tell me how much my house is worth, but how do you think it's going to be sold? And what things are you going to do to help me as a consumer, not as a lender? And she flipped out. She's like, no, of course I'm going to be your lender. I mean, your real estate agent. And I said, well, that's possible. But the fact is that I know that I have to do the right things for me to get the house sold. When I go and talk to real estate agents, I try to refer them business. So as most people know, you can't refer all your business to one person.
Right.
If you can, they're going to either be your wife or husband, or when that person decides to get out of the business, so are you.
Sure.
So that could be a problem. So I really have surrounded myself with professional agents that know what they're doing so that I can refer somebody to them. And usually it's going to be a good fit. Sometimes you'll deal with somebody that's very high maintenance, very type A personality, and you don't want them to work with somebody who's quieter, more subdued when they work. Not that they're bad, it's just not a good fit.
Sure.
So sometimes you like to look at the fit and see how they can do that. Although I will tell you, the day that I get 100% of somebody's business might be the day that I'm going to retire, because I don't know that really there's one agent that can give you that much business. I also do business with a lot of other people. I work with accountants. I work with insurance agents. I get a lot of referrals from attorneys. So, you have to be able to give your mix a good variety when you're dealing with business, because you can't just live on real estate agents as a mortgage professional.
Sure. Tony, I've been monopolizing the conversation here.
That's all right.
I've seen you writing down some questions.
Well, I knew I'd get my chance. Keith, I heard you, and I'm going back to the previous much earlier, and I heard a couple of nuggets that I kind of wanted to follow up on. I heard you say you were in the apparel business, and then you got in the mortgage business. How did you make that? How did you go from apparel to mortgage? What was that decision?
Well, it's funny. When I first was going to go into the apparel business, I was trying to figure out. I was very young, out of college, worked for a year in the restaurant business, absolutely insane, and I decided that I have to do something else. So I actually sold copy machines and fax machines before they ever were popular. They were actually coming out. And I thought to myself, who in their right mind is going to buy one of these fax machines? Well, I learned that business, learned that I didn't want to be in that business, and I got an opportunity to become a rep in the apparel business, calling on smaller accounts in Texas, as well as some mid-tier department stores. And I did that for a long time, went to work for them until they decided that they wanted to give my boss my job, because they were doing some consolidation.
Okay.
So I packed my things up and gave it to him. My wife flipped out at that time. She said, "Hey, we're going to Chicago for Christmas. What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, I have 6 weeks severance pay. That's all. 6 weeks severance. We're going on vacation. I'll have a job when I get back." So I actually interviewed, got a great job. I worked for Burlington and Interwoven Socks. I was in that business for a while. I worked in the intimate apparel business for Maidenform, Liliette, and Triumph before that. But when you learn to service the needs of your customer, it doesn't matter whether it's a retail customer, whether it's a person who needs a mortgage or needs financial help. It doesn't really matter. You learn to develop what skills you have in order to help them out. I have a business background, so that's really helped a lot.
Okay, that was a great answer. My other question was about you. I heard you say you were always on. So for people out there that are always on and have trouble shutting down, how do you shut down? How do you get yourself to just, because you can't be always on. You got to have that moment where you can just breathe.
I'll tell you, it's funny because my wife always asks me, why is it that you can talk to people all day long, you can have conversations, you're always doing something, but you come home and you take your shoes off and turn that TV on and you fall asleep watching TV. So a lot of times, I'll just break it off. I will sit down and watch TV, get my mind off of business, get my mind off of things. The tough part is when you're relaxed and doing something and you get this phone call and it's a real estate agent and says, "I've got somebody I need you to pre-qualify right now because we're going to go put in an offer." So when I work with my agents, I try to always suggest to them that they get me this person ahead of time, so we don't have to rush to get that done. There's nothing worse than rushing around because you're always apt to have a mistake.
Okay.
So at that point, but I mean, that's pretty much what I do. I do enjoy a lot of different things. Horse racing. I'm a horse owner, race horses.
Okay.
I do that. I've enjoyed that. Obviously, I love the sports, football, basketball, baseball,
Okay.
hockey.
Good.
Yeah.
And then my final one, you were talking about planning your day. How are you one that plans at night, and that way you wake up in the morning and know exactly what you're going to do, or do you get up early in the morning, figure out your plan, and then get at it? Do you have an extensive to-do list, a small to-do list?
I hate lists. I mean,
Okay.
I'll be the first to tell you, I hate lists. I have a lot in my brain,
Okay.
but I do write things down. So I usually think about it the night before. What do I have to do tomorrow? What's going on? Okay, this morning I had Rotary at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So I also have some things I had to do at my office, do some running around. I also have this podcast. I have a 5 o'clock appointment. So I have to schedule my day to figure out what things I'm going to do. In this short amount of time, 2 hours between this time and this time, what is it that I'm going to do? And so I try to plan that ahead of time. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, it changes all the time.
Sure.
Things come up, you have to react to it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I feel like I'm doing a deposition. I got a couple of follow-up questions for you.
Not guilty.
So when you're, in my experience with the chamber, it's really easy to go to the lunches and maybe go to a cocktail hour or two and not really get, embedded in the chamber, not really use it to the fullest extent that you can. What are your strategies for when you join the Chamber of Commerce, getting truly involved in it so that it's a helpful driver for your business?
The one thing that always gets to me is the businesses that join and just to say I'm a member of the chamber and they expect to get business.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't. In order to become a true member of the chamber and to get business, you have to get involved in different things. So usually I suggest they look at what things are available, what things are of interest to them, what things would they like to get involved with. And I've been on almost every committee you can imagine over the long time. I'm a board director. The best way to get involved is become a director.
Were you asked to be a director, or did you approach somebody?
No, actually, every year they open it up, and you can put in for it, and then they interview a number of all the people, the applicants, and they find the best people that they think would fit to help the chamber grow and be an integral part of it. I've been on the education committee. I've been on the golf committee. I haven't been on legislative committee, but I've gone to Washington, D.C. I've been to Springfield with the chamber and lobbied on a number of issues. So, you really do need to get involved. Obviously, you get together and you can join one of their networking groups, but you really just have to find out what to get involved in. If you don't show up, nobody knows who you are. And, that to me is like, well, they have to know who you are. So get to go
that's true
things.
for any group that you join. You can't just join a bunch of clubs and groups and then, appear and not get involved and expect to get business out of it. In the Rotary Club, you're on the committee that puts on Grove Fest, our town festival, and you're on the board of the Rotary Club, and you got to really dig into every group that you're a member of and become part of the inner circle by donating your time, really.
And you spend a lot of time doing it. So it's just like work. Some of it's work, some of it's fun work, but you're still going to do it. And like you said, I've been on the board and still am on the board for Rotary Club. To me, it's always better to have a voice than to have somebody tell you all the time what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So, that's why I get involved, and it's worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any other questions for you, Keith. Thanks so much for being here. Anything else that you want to talk about on the topic of power partners?
No, I tell you, diversity. I think is really the key to being to getting more business. I'm in the mortgage business, so everybody says, well, real estate agents are the best way to get it. Well, they are. They actually see the clients all the time. They are the front line of somebody buying a home. But once you own a home and you have a lot of debt and you need to go to your accountant and he says, well, my gosh, you have a lot of debt, he might suggest to you to speak to a mortgage professional. I do a blended rate debt analysis for customers who own homes, and I'll put in their debts, their interest rates, what their interest rate is on their home. And many times I found that you could refinance and lower your whole debt structure by doing that. So accountants like that. That makes them look good, obviously. I deal with attorneys. A lot of people get divorced. Well, most every one of them have homes. And one's going to have that home or they're going to sell it and go their separate ways. So there's always that opportunity to get some additional business there.
Okay. Well, if somebody wants to reach you, how can they do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I think the best way is to call me. I love my phone number.
Yeah, feel free to give it out.
630-306-LOAN.
Okay, well, that is a nice phone number.
630-306-LOAN, and that's 306-5626 for those people who are a little challenged when they look at the telephone.
See, my phone number actually has 666 in it, and as an attorney, that's not ideal.
Yes, but you know what?
That explains a lot. No. That's scary.
You know what, though? They get to know you very well that way. I have a website, 1amllc.com/Hoffman. I've got, those are probably the best way. You can always email me, keith.hoffman@1amllc.com. But, the easiest ways to get me is to call me.
Okay. And do you do mortgages just in Illinois, or do you do them nationwide?
No, I'm personally licensed in 3 states. And don't laugh.
Okay.
Illinois and Wisconsin and North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
So when we were owners, I was a part owner in the company. So when we did that, some of us owners, we decided we needed to get licensed in different states in order to get some more business. So I took North Carolina. I had friends that live out there. It's a great place. You never know.
To golf.
Exactly. So that's where I go. Our company's licensed in about 40 states and growing, and we are able to refer that business to one of the loan officers that is licensed there. So I work very closely with the loan officers that are licensed in different states.
And how can people buy your books?
Amazon. Amazon's the only way you can buy it. So you can go on Amazon, horse racing. You can put in Smarter Bets the Exact Way, or you can put in Inside the Sport of Kings. And it's really kind of a funny thing. I'm not an author, but my first book, Smarter Bets the Exact Way, actually is a pretty good seller in the category of horse racing. I think there was only like 3 books ahead of it. The reviews have been very mixed, and it's really funny because, when you get a negative review, you go, oh my gosh, like I have to change my whole life. It's like nobody likes this. And then the next review, the guy says, I should have bet more money. I won so much money. I had a great thing. It's a great book. So the reviews are all the way from 5-star to 1-star. And but if you go on there and you buy the book, you can then comment in the reviews after you read it. So I strongly suggest that they do that, because reviews are opinions, and everybody has theirs. I love the one where the one gentleman said that he used it for the bottom of his parakeet cage.
Oh.
But it's so funny because the next one said, I bet the Belmont Stakes. I did exactly what you told me to do, and I should have bet more. I won like whatever it was, $1,000, $1,500, or something like that. So it's what you take out of it. It's a knowledge book. The first one is completely different than the second. The first one teaches you how to bet exactas, as well as how to pick your horses when you want to bet on anything. The second book is Insights, Perspectives, and Stories. So I've interviewed track announcers, trainers, the top East Coast ownership group in the business, giving my perspectives, going to the Derby, some fun stories, what cigars to pick for your Breeders' Cup, so it's a little different, but completely two different books. And I've learned that many, many people like to learn how to bet on things and not really care too much about the insides.
Do you have, are there Kindle versions?
Not at this point. The first book is very intricate when it comes to the figures.
Oh, okay.
So I can't get that on Kindle. The second book will be on Kindle. I'm in the process right now of getting that converted over.
Okay.
Because the pictures have to be converted over. The words are already there. I have to get that done.
Okay. And did I hear you right? You own horses?
I'm a part owner in 2 horses. I've had 6 at one time.
Oh, wow.
And it's a expensive hobby, but it's very, very rewarding. And I'll share one story with you.
Okay.
The very, very first horse we bought was Little Michael. Now, my partners said something about, let's claim Little Michael. And I said, oh my gosh, Little Mike, that's like $1 million horse. How are we going to do that? And so I looked it up, and it wasn't Little Mike, it was Little Michael. Big difference. So we bought the horse, trained him for a few months. Dale Bennett is my trainer, and wonderful trainer. He's down in Tampa right now, but he's also at Arlington in the season. And we had a party, my company, all the loan officers had a networking party. It's a perfect way to meet people and bring people and get them involved. We had 4 tents. We had 300 people there. And that was the first day my horse was racing at Arlington. Well, everybody knows your horse, so they're going to bet on him.
Sure.
So we went from 10-1 down to even money before it even opened that race. He actually won, which was great. And I had a lot of people in the winner's circle in the picture. But that was so exhilarating that it just made me want to have more.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
I know.
Well, and one thing I'm going to
story.
draw on from what you said, and I think it's having whatever interests you have, pursuing them full bore, whether it's the chamber or horse racing, you can use those interests to meet other people and network. And I was in a band for a long time.
Right.
A lot of my early clients came from people who came to my shows and didn't, know any other attorneys. And, so whatever, it doesn't really matter so much what you do getting out in the community. It's really just getting out, doing something you're willing to commit to.
Yeah, exactly. I have 2 websites in relationship to horse racing. One of them is thederbyfan.com. And that is dedicated to talking about horses and races, but it's also talking about betting. So leading up to the Kentucky Derby, I have every week the major races. I handicap them. I try not to give you a lot of great detail because you can go to drf.com or Blood Horse, or you can go to a million places and actually check it out. But I give you my 2 cents worth, and then I show you what I would bet. So I start with a fictitious $1,000 bankroll. And I just tell you exactly how I would bet it. And then you can look at the results, and it's fun. The second one is called Keith the Derby Man. And that is so you can look at my books. So you can actually pull up my books. You can read a little of them, and you can go right online and order them from there if you want.
Okay.
So it's fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Keith. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure with you, Kevin.
All right.
Thank you.